imagine this. You're one of thousands of people who wargame Iran for a living. No one's called you. You've not gotten a single text. No one's emailed you. You're 3 weeks into the war and you're like checking your spam. You're like, maybe they reached out. No one reached out. You spent your entire career wargaming, writing policy briefs, teaching students so they can wargame. You know strategy. You know what tactics are. You understand what bombers are and drones and whatever else the fuck they have. And not a single soul called one of you.
We're not doing nerds. We're fuck the nerds.
You tear down the house, then you put up the rent. You pocket the cash, and you crush all dissent.
Welcome to the Red Diaper Pail, episode 30. Today is March 22nd, 2026. This is a podcast about art, culture, history, politics, technology, and parenting from a left perspective. And my name is Simone.
And I'm John Paul. 30 episodes. That's pretty good. The big 3-0.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
How's your bracket?
I don't even know because my bracket's on my work phone. So I can't. It's such an effort to like two-factor authentication into whatever I have to, into CBS March Madness app via my work email over the weekend. So I imagine it's quite mediocre. We haven't really been able to watch any games on the account of the parenting.
Yeah, indeed. The parenting takes up a lot of the weekend.
And the weekdays as well.
Yeah. Thank God for public education.
Yeah.
Are you going to do some horrible headlines
I
this
do
time?
have some horrible headlines. I have one I intended to bring up a couple weeks ago and we just didn't. And that is the Prairieland defendants. So this is the Democracy Now! Story on it. A jury in Texas has convicted 8 people in the first federal anti-terror case since the Trump administration declared Antifa a terrorist group. 9 defendants, alleged to be members of an Antifa terror cell, stood trial on federal and state charges, including rioting, using explosives, and attempted murder. The charges stem from their attendance at an anti-ICE noise demo outside the Prairieland ICE jail on July 4th, during which fireworks were set off and a police officer was shot and wounded. The Intercept, which has been doing analysis on this was their lead on their analysis piece. Quote, the prosecution's case was extraordinarily weak. All they really proved was that the activists, some of whom knew each other, planned and attended a late-night demonstration during which certain illegal acts took place. If that can be sold to juries as the work of an organized terrorist cell, deserving decades in prison, then Trump's fantasy of rounding up and imprisoning leftists en masse has become a reality.
Yeah.
You know the details of the story.
A guy shot a gun.
To the ground.
No. Some guy who was not protest. Someone who's not being prosecuted.
Shots fired.
Shot. This guy, who's a ex-Marine, shot bullets into the ground. Something I guess he called it suppressing fire or something.
Suppressive fire. The bullet ricocheted.
Ricochets and grazes the neck of a police officer. Absolutely, incidentally. Now, is this a criminal act? Probably. Are you gonna expect probably do jail time? Probably.
That said, the shooter had a self-defense case that the judge did not allow them to present.
Yeah, that's one of those subplots here. Is the judge is a crazy person.
So he was tried on this is an attempted murder charge and was disallowed from presenting a self-defense case. So that's one person who was.
Doesn't the jury get to decide whether the self-defense case is compelling?
I don't know.
How does the judge get to decide?
Well, the judge decided that, and in this case, the judge also decided the jury because he dismissed the first jury.
Yeah.
After it had been impaneled.
Uh-huh.
And did his own jury selection.
Yeah, didn't throw it back to the lawyers to do a new jury selection, but just picked his own.
Did his own. So there's two. I mean,
can you again with the juries thing is this is a case where your opinion of ICE matters a lot. Who doesn't have a strong opinion of ICE? What is the weirdo 0.05% of the population that they have as a jury pool?
Well, the judge also picked people I think who are supportive of ICE deliberately versus not just lacking opinions. However, there's two stories here. The first story is this is a very concerning precedent because what they did was basically do a collective liability case.
Yep.
To try to get as many folks who showed up, I guess, in black to this protest and who may have been connected to each other via Signal apps or like via Kevin Bacon in a Signal app, got them all convicted of some serious charges. They did try to get attempted murder on more than one of them, and they were unable to get that, which I guess is a relief. But they got some serious charges against a group of people that were essentially just protesting. The good side of this story is like this is the first case that they've actually been able to do this with effectively. They've been trying to do this for a while, and it took a very sympathetic conservative judge in a very conservative district to pull it off.
Yeah.
And a particular case where there was a bullet, it did graze a police officer. I mean, it's so on and so forth. So it was very. I don't think this is going to happen everywhere overnight, but
I mean,
those people are screwed.
yeah.
The protesters who have been charged and now convicted are
the people
screwed.
they have to appeal to is the Fifth Circuit, and apparently they're extremely right wing. So
And the activists have let this one go without like protesting in solidarity with them.
yeah.
Partially because there was a gunshot and there was a wounded police officer, and I think that they were kind of abandoned by the mainstream protesters. But for people who are not familiar with this story, there was the man who had the ricocheted bullet, and he is facing time for attempted murder, like significant jail time. Yeah. And then there's 7 others who are facing upwards of decades in prison for other things like terrorism charges.
Mm-hmm.
And these are for doing things like wearing black to a protest and moving a box of zines from your girlfriend's house to a car. Now, the man who's going to prison for that wasn't at the protest.
I know.
He just moved the zines.
The amount of importance placed upon wearing black at this thing is like a huge part of the prosecutor's case, and very strange.
It's because of the black bloc.
Yeah, it's good for me though, because I never go to protests wearing black. I always go in my hammer and sickle bathing suit. So
JP saves that one. He saves the bathing suit for the protester, the fellow, those he's in solidarity with.
Yeah, I mean, on a serious note, like there are actual political organizations in this country, political parties. I mean, can you imagine everyone in like New York DSA being hit with like RICO charges because one person, like, I don't know, sets fire to a Starbucks and happens to be a member?
Well, that's a good point. I think they're trying to make you scared of that, but they're not going to pursue larger membership political organizations right now because they can't. So they're deliberately picking on small groupings. And like, I mean, this is a made up Antifa cell, but like, even if there was an Antifa cell of like 15 people in Texas, like that is much easier than member rolls of thousands.
Yeah, that's true. I think you're right. I think this is supposed to have a chilling effect. It's supposed to create a precedent that they can use later. It's supposed to just enact cruelty for the hooting.
And we talked about this, that some very small group of people were going to get very unlucky.
Yeah, because they wanted some red meat, and it doesn't have to be a lot to be like, oh, look, they are dismantling Antifa by 8 people, including this woman's boyfriend, being sent to prison. But it's worrying.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's obviously an assault.
It's basically saying like what you do. Your life is not in the hands of what you do. It's in the hands of what the people around you do and who you associate with. And if you can't be 100% sure what they're going to do, then you should stay home because you're putting yourself at risk.
That's what they want you to think. They want to play into this idea that there's good protests and bad protests, and if you associate with the right people doing the right things, you'll be fine. That is not true. There's no protest that's good protest in their mind.
Mm-hmm.
Any civil disobedience that necessarily, which is part of this all requires breaking laws. This all requires doing things that upset the status quo. Any of those things are potentially fodder. Being in a Signal chat where you organize something is considered evidence in this case.
Yep.
Talking to fellow humans about the thing you're going to go do potentially together related to human rights violations in your town is fodder in this case. So they want you to think, oh, I can't go to that protest because somebody could do something and I can't trust all the people around me and it's too much risk. And you're miscalculating. You should know who you're showing up to things with. You should say no to adventurism. You should have safety plans. You should do risk analysis for the people involved. And the people you cannot trust are not the people at the protest. I mean, except for the cops who are undercover and certainly trying to set shit off.
Yeah.
The people you cannot trust are the people who don't go to the protests and the people who are in charge of the government and the cops and the narcs that you might have in your family or on your fucking neighborhood watch. Those are the people you cannot trust.
Yeah.
And HR at work.
I agree with all of that. I will say that, like, and having been through the diversity of tactics argument for the Occupy era, I have always had a certain respect for the argument that, like, let people do their own thing. And I may favor a more, like, disciplined, centralized approach to organization. But I have sort of a begrudging respect for people who are willing to, like, take on more risk for themselves on behalf of themselves, or, like, the idea that, like, different tactics working in parallel are more effective, etc. But I think that we are now entering a new era of fascism where people need to be taking discipline and collective decision making much more seriously, and that includes decisions about whether I'm going armed, what I'm doing with that gun, who is going to be affected by those decisions, what role do they have in helping me make those decisions, and ultimately, like, how do we organize ourselves into something that can act with more, like, clarity and purpose and uniform, like, like, in this case we're using these tactics, in that case we're using that tactics, and to add to that, like, the costs associated with adventurism are going to go up much more quickly, so people need to be very careful about that.
Do you think you have enough information about this case to identify what was going on the ground as either lacking collective decision making or being adventurous? Because what my concern here is that this is yet another way to split hairs about how folks need to be showing up, when I think all of it really did happen was you had a noise demonstration that the illegality of was maybe getting too close to an ICE facility, which we all understand is act of civil disobedience, and using fireworks on the 4th of July during a noise demonstration. And both of those things could have been illegal, but then I do think there was something that happened where there was an escalation and shots were fired, and we can get into what happened there. But I don't get the sense that this was adventurous anarchists lacking self-control. Which I know what you're saying, but I think you're feeding a narrative that is not a helpful narrative. There was a lot of civil disobedience and interventionist tactics that happened on the ground in Minneapolis, and we talk about that as successful collective action. But they were stepping in to stop people from being kidnapped off the streets, and that's not legal. And that is one of the diversity of tactics that was applauded in Minneapolis, built off of a history that started with burning a police station to the ground with George Floyd. So I just would be careful about how we paint. I don't know these people at the Prairieland Detention Center. They could have been adventurous. This guy could have made a really bad choice, but he also could have been very much feeling in a sort of disciplined collectivist activist background, and shit just kind of went sideways accidentally.
Yeah. I agree
the same
with that.
thing.
I'm not trying to indict them or anything that's been done really up to this point. I'm simply saying that, like, this is a sign that things have changed, and that means that people need to be thoughtful about changing with the times and the way that they think about this stuff.
I mean, we've seen horrifying crackdown on anti-genocide demonstrators who are not American born, who are students, who entirely took part in peaceful actions, and they've been sent to ICE detention centers.
Yeah.
Has something changed, or is this just?
Yeah.
I
it has changed. I'm certainly not saying that they deserve to all be in jail.
I don't want to over amplify the Prairieland verdict, because I think it might be more a coincidence of factors than it is okay. I think the Trump memo that calls Antifa terrorist organizations more concerning, and this is obviously the first enactment of that being.
Yeah, it's their, like, multi-agency attempt to manifest that legally, as opposed to just with, like, a document. And they were successful this one time.
The more we The more we generalize about it, though, and the more the more we use it to inform our analysis of what's happening on the ground, the more power it gives the whole thing.
Right. I mean, I guess I agree with that. Like, if it's not a trend, right? If you had a
Not
trend,
yet.
if you had a trend of a lot of people being hurt in Minneapolis because of people trying to do de-arresting, you probably expect them to change tactics. You wouldn't say, "Well, we all deserve to get hurt," or
Right.
"These are
No,
bad
you
people." You just say, "We need to adjust tactics." So I guess I can agree with you to the extent of which you say, take it seriously, look at what's actually happening. Is this an isolated case, or is this a trend? It's hard to say at this point, but don't be unserious about it and
Right.
pretend that like it is still 2008. Like,
Yeah, it's not 2008.
Take it. It's
Also, parents should not be taking. Well, I don't want to be. I don't want.
Oh,
I
here we
don't-
go.
I don't
Here
wanna
we go,
be
Miss
dogmatic and
everyone's-
judgmental. But one thing I have picked up that I think is a trend is actions at ICE facilities are not safe actions for children and pets.
It's very sectarian of you.
Well, these actions that are close to the ICE facilities get them really hot and bothered, and they do fucked up shit. So I just, as a parenting podcaster, I invite you all to, unless you want to do like a in real life lesson about the biology of tear gas, do not take your children to an ICE facility to protest.
If I'm not allowed to bring my children or pets, then who am I going to use as a human shield?
Oh, okay. On that note, there has been a government shutdown, partial government shutdown for a while now.
Indeed.
Hasn't slowed down the war effort.
This is great. This is great because this is the one time that the Democrats decided to have a spine, and it's completely absent from the news. They don't talk about themselves. No one reports on it.
I know. They can't win for losing. So this is the third shutdown in less than 6 months, and it has forced the officers who screen airport passengers, also known as the TSA, to keep working without pay, or as they have started to do, just not show up. 1/3 of TSA agents did not report to work on Friday. Is there any context that would concern you that we have a lack of airport security right now?
Yeah, I think there's a non-zero chance that the IRGC is trying to smuggle nuclear material into the United States.
What's the number one thing they say about Iran when they're like, we are doing talking points in Iran? It is the number one state sponsor of terrorism. I don't know if it's because we're millennials or not, but when you think of terrorism, what is the first thing you think of? Airplanes?
Airplanes?
Yeah, airplanes.
Dirty bombs?
University of Chicago political scientist Robert Pape,
Oh, yeah.
who compiled the first database of suicide attacks after 9/11, has said, quote, the longer this war goes on, the greater the risk. That's what the Trump administration has bitten off. Not because the TSA is understaffed, just because we're in the conflict with Iran.
Right.
Let's also understaff the TSA.
Yeah. This is like the inability to govern stuff of like, we are going to throw our weight around and make real change in the world. And what you do is you start to pull the threads out of all the seams and everything starts to fall apart.
What's it like to be a TSA officer right now? You're getting evicted. Your vehicles are being repossessed out of the fucking airport parking lot.
And you're being told you have to show up to work without pay for the sake of national security. Who do you blame if you're them? You blame Trump or you blame the Democrats?
Houston Hobby Airport has hit a 51.5% call out rate this past week. JFK Airport was at 30% call out rate.
Jesus Christ.
Trump said he was going to send ICE to airports. Holman came on television during the Sunday morning news shows and said, we are not doing that.
I have a deal. I have a deal on that note. Send ICE to Iran and send the people stationed near Iran to the TSA to do the TSA work.
I love that.
Have active military come back home and pat people down and have the ICE agents go run around the Middle East.
But the only problem with that is Bovino can't go to the Iran because he's retiring.
Oh, is he?
Mm-hmm.
That's too bad. Well, he retired to a nice job sitting on top of an aircraft carrier.
So aside from the fact that we're setting ourselves up for either a true terrorist attack or a false flag, because the TSA, like, there's just no one to watch it. No one's watching. The best performing airport in the United States, which apparently is Salt Lake City. I did not know this.
Performing in what metric?
Like lack
Money?
of flight disruptions.
Okay.
It's probably because the Mormons do a lot of travel, but they're very good at getting there on time.
No alcohol.
Oh, the pilots are sober.
I was gonna say the administrators, but the pilots come from everywhere.
Good point. Good point. Even the best performing airport had a 40% flight disruption rate this past week.
Jesus Christ.
Think about the knock-on cost. You have like businesses who like have their muckety mucks travel around, which I think is disgusting. But then think about the cost to those businesses.
Autobiographical.
I don't know. I don't travel. Think about the cost of those businesses. Oh, so and so is delayed 12 hours. We got to do another hotel. We got to get them another Hertz vehicle. We got to get them another fancy dinner, and then they can't go to the business meetings, which apparently are for profit. And I mean, there's a lot of costs involved here when we're heading into a recession, and there's a lot of inflation too. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
Yeah. So this is happening, just so people know. The reason the government is shut down is after the Democrats capitulated, which we covered, I don't know, 10, 15 episodes ago.
And you wrote about.
Yeah. They killed Alex Preddy. And
the Democrats didn't, but they might as well have.
They might as well, because they reopened the government. Oh, God. The ICE killed Alex Preddy, and the Democrats said, okay, hold on. We agreed to reopen the government, but you basically bragged about how you lied to us, and then you went and killed this unarmed guy, so we are actually going to close the government. So we're like doing this partial shutdown, which is the only thing they could force at the time, and it's taken all these months for it to start catching up.
And I think that they want,
now catching up.
Now there's some creative ideas where it's like take ICE out of Homeland Security so you can get TSA agents back without funding ICE. Mm-hmm. Smart bureaucratic solutions that took several months to figure out. But yeah, any news coverage of this? No, nothing. All right.
Crazy.
LA Times. It took 3 decades of battles and lobbying for Cesar Chavez's name and likeness to grace hundreds of buildings, roads, parks, and schools. It is taking just days for them all to come down. Democracy Now! Labor icon Dolores Huerta, 95 years old, reveals she too was raped by Cesar Chavez and she kept quiet until she was 95 because she was worried about the damage to the movement.
Yeah.
This is a horrible story. I hate everything about this story.
Yeah.
But the New York Times did a big expose and found or alleged that he was raping and sexually assaulting girls and grooming girls and young women in the movement for years and years and years. And then Dolores Huerta came out and also said that she was raped once, coerced once, impregnated twice, placed those kids up into other families, has since now had a relationship with those kids, has a good adult relationship with those kids, but those kids only just found out that their father was Cesar Chavez and the result of rape, and she kept it hidden all those years. Now, she was the co-founder and the co-organizer of the National Farm Workers Association.
Yeah.
She's a fucking hero.
Yeah. She's like comparing the two of them, someone who's willing to organize alongside her rapist for years for the good of other people, and a guy who is just thinking with his dick all the time, could not care, just everyone else is going to protect me because I'm so important that I don't risk what the political project is at all. I can just pursue whatever it is that's in front of me and not think about anybody else. It's crazy to me. The contrast between the two is crazy to me.
Dolores she co-founded the farmers organization with him, and she served as vice president for decades and decades. She was in it until like the early 2000s. She was the lead negotiator in the workers' contract that ended the grape strike. She also happened to be in a relationship with his brother, whom she had 4 children with. And he was the face of the movement for a very, very long time and became quite a labor icon. But he also has sort of been a little bit like, at least in the circles I run in, I've heard there's been more like exalting her the last 10 years than him, because I think his reputation was starting to become quietly tarnished, and like people were talking about it behind the scenes.
Okay. So this was sort of an open secret for a while?
It was an open secret for a while. But she didn't come out and say it until the very end. And she said partially it was because she couldn't live with the fact that he was the details of the New York Times story of, the grooming children. She couldn't live with those details. And she felt like it was important that she really be honest about his legacy. But what the fuck is going on with these men and the children? And how much better do the women have to be? Can you imagine? I mean, like you said, the contrast is incredible.
Yeah.
She just did everything. She was a poor laborer. She was an excellent organizer. She dealt with horrifying men. She raised children. She had trauma with some of those children. She had to be separated from those children. She then, as an adult, rebuilt relationships with those children, all while harboring a secret because she didn't want there to be more damage to the people that needed her and needed each other. And like, meanwhile, he's like, what? Just like can't.
There's something I want in front of me. So
Right.
fuck it. I mean, I think this draws into question, like, obviously you can be a very talented organizer and political operative and also have, like,
Yeah, be terrible at other things.
be terrible person in other ways. But the degree to which, like, her story makes sense is, like, she forewent justice on her own behalf because she believed in something greater than her. This portrays to me an absolute lack of seriousness about what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because if this is discovered, it's setting it all back. I mean, you spend your whole day doing something, and then you're going to just, once every 3 days, you're going to do something that if anyone discovers it, it's going to fall apart.
And he took advantage of the power and influence he had amongst people that he already knew were highly marginalized and lacking resources.
Yeah.
Girls in the day laborer movement, he knew they were so vulnerable that he could get away with it. I mean, there's a cynicism and disgustingness about that when you are supposedly the champion of their rights.
Yeah.
And you're right. And the calculation is either I'll get away with it or I won't, but like, fuck the movement.
Yeah.
I can't help but say this is a story, and we have California and Texas and everybody removing the Cesar Chavez Day and taking his fucking bust down. And the president of the United States raped children per the Epstein files, and we can't manage to do anything about it.
Yeah, the timing of the story has been a little...
Not even a headline that is actually kind of accurate of what's happening. But Cesar Chavez, I am not defending Cesar Chavez. Like, good riddance. But like, everybody's like, oh yes, immediately we'll remove the Cesar Chavez statue and the day on our calendar.
Yeah. I mean, it makes you wonder whether somebody expected the leftists to be like, it doesn't matter, he's still a hero. And they didn't get that. But they wanted the contrast.
No, the leftists we love Dolores.
We like absolutely love Dolores. Wish I knew more about Dolores and less about Cesar Chavez.
We also love his late wife, who was also Cesar Chavez's wife was an incredible organizer who stood by his side when she fucking knew. Well, God, she probably knew exactly what he was up to. And
how could you not?
Raised his children, and she continued to do the organizing she needed to do, and she had a positive relationship with Dolores Huerta, because of course she would, because like the women in the movement held this fucking thing together. Mm-hmm. Disgusting.
Yeah, it's also, I think it sheds some light on the commentary of like, women are a lot less fragile and a lot more dedicated than people give them credit for. I think there's a lot of like, women can't, like, the movement's going to fall apart if men do this or men do that. And really, like, women are a primary protagonist of this whole thing. And they have a lot more capacity for like putting up with bullshit or standing up against bullshit than they're given credit for. And I think that needs to be.
They put their own, I think, very... Not to make sweeping generalizations, but I think women, especially women in the movement, have far less ego, and they are far less selfish, which means they are putting many, many, many needs in front of their own. And they also are not as likely to fall into the traps of ego and power. And if you put, and you know,
Yeah, and that's not the pathology. The pathology is the men who are unable to do that.
Right. The pathology is the men will be free of emotional burden and hysteria and being distracted by, you know, children and, I don't know, vaginas. But, like, the opposite is true. The men are distracted and full of feelings, big feelings they don't know what to deal with, and massive ego. And they put a lot of things in front of their discipline.
Yep.
And I think women are just socialized where it's like, well, we gotta get this shit done.
Yeah.
Like, I guess we gotta get, like, it's gotta be done. So like, we just have, and it means we have to be, and we will probably work with the other women behind the scenes to get it done. So it's quiet and done.
Yeah.
It's fucking Cesar Chavez.
So once again, the problem with men is not that they're too much like women. The problem with men is they're too much like children. They could do a lot.
I think that's a little insulting to children. All right, one more.
Okay.
We've talked about Cuba. As of last week, Cuba's electrical grid has collapsed. The island-wide blackout comes amid a harsh U.S. oil blockade and recent comments from Donald Trump saying that he wants to take Cuba. No oil shipments have reached the country in 3 months, compounding a humanitarian crisis caused by decades of severe sanctions. That's the Democracy Now! Lead. There have been 3, like, quote-unquote collapses of the electrical grid in the last few months. So it's not like it collapses and stays collapsed. It's sort of on again.
This one was actually back on by Tuesday. They had about 50% of it back. I understand because they have fuel. It's just very unrefined, I guess, so they can get it running. It's just not the most efficient way to do it.
That said, current affairs editor-in-chief Nathan Robinson is on the ground in Havana.
Okay.
And so there's been
so
like
is
these...
Hassan Piker's there? Katie Halper's there?
Why did we not get invited? Do they think we have too many children?
Guys, we will find a babysitter.
We will bring the children. We probably won't bring the children.
children.
Can you imagine if we call my mom? Mom, we're going to bring the children. Do you want Mom?
To the embargoed island.
Can you come to Cuba with us to watch the children? I mean, there's no electricity, but it won't be anxiety producing.
Oh my God.
So there's been like, social media posts where they're like, oh, the people on the ventilators have died overnight. That is not quite true. But Nathan Robinson is reporting on the ground in Havana, and he's saying that multiple big hospitals who had patients on ventilators lost those patients overnight because that was it.
Yeah.
The electrical grid was down. They did not have fuel for the generators. The people on ventilators died. Other patients who are also highly at risk probably also died. But this is similar to that you have to imagine that you are the parent of the child in the girls' school. You live in Cuba. You have a family member in the hospital on a ventilator, or a family member waiting for chemotherapy, or a young child who's having a really bad case of RSV and needs a functioning hospital. And the electrical grid goes down. It's not like, oh, we can't watch TV tonight. It's killing people.
Yeah. Not just that. I mean, just imagining I have to feed my kids tonight. I have to figure out how to cook this or give them cold food again.
And this is months.
Refrigeration.
Months.
I mean,
And it's not just the electrical grid's down. People don't have jobs right now. People can't go to work. People's work days are getting cut from 5 to 2 to 1 because they don't have the energy to get people to and from work, and they also are trying to conserve energy, which means your paycheck is cut.
Yeah. It's just pure. I mean, it's
cruel.
Trump made this clear when he talked about how he's going to get to take it in one way or another. It's just his individual prestige. He wants this on his the notch on his bedpost.
I think that's reasonable because this is his quote. Whether I free it or take it, I think I can do anything I want with it.
Yep.
So that is the mindset.
Yep.
Rape and pillage.
Yep.
Conquer and take.
Yep.
Is a nice beach. It's mine. This morning on the Sunday morning news shows, Cuba's deputy foreign minister says, quote, our military is always prepared, and in fact, it is preparing these days for the possibility of military aggression. It would be naive if, looking at what's happening around the world, we would not do that, but we truly hope that does not occur. I don't think Cuba's as easy as Venezuela. I mean, I don't think it's as hard as Iran, but I don't
know what to say about that, except for one of the most important factors is the population's dedication to the political project. Historically, Cubans have been very dedicated to the political project. I don't know.
You have this feeling it's not there anymore, but I don't know if you have evidence about it. We'll have to wait for everyone's podcast this week, Hassan and Katie and Nathan Robinson, and see what they have to say about what's going on the ground. We're sending flotillas too, not just leftist journalists. Not just leftist live streamers.
Can we burn them for fuel?
Yeah. Hi, Hassan. Did you bring us diesel? I also don't think they're going to go into Cuba until I know Cuba's not Iran, but a multi-front war, I don't actually know if they have the logistics to support it.
Well, they took the Ford out of the Ford was in the Caribbean and they moved it.
They did.
So
I assume they moved it because it was just flooding with shit. And they didn't know what else to do.
They do a trail of shit across the Atlantic Ocean.
Like Dave Matthews Band style.
Did you see that some fucking sailor on the French aircraft carrier
had his Strava.
Put his run tracker on, so they have the path of him running on the stupid aircraft carrier. This classified information. He's got a little loop going.
But the French Navy's IT team has that app blocked. Seriously.
I mean,
So now we know where the French aircraft carrier is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was doing over there.
well, it was going from A to B, I think is what it was doing.
It was going from South America to.
I don't know.
It was certainly not near Iran. Oh, maybe that was all fake news.
They were letting Trump know that they said they were sending it, but it was nowhere close. It was never going to be close.
Someone get on Strava.
I mean, it's funny and humiliating that it's still not as humiliating as Hegseth telling the editor of The Atlantic about the fucking plans to blow shit up.
Oh, the chat where he added
yeah.
He was like, I'm trying to talk to my lawyer and my wife and my brother-in-law about security, about,
I got the wrong view in the chat. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I mean, it's embarrassing that he's like, I got to run this by my personal lawyer, my brother-in-law. That itself is embarrassing.
Yeah.
And then he adds the press, and still has a job.
Still has a job. Oh, we're going to talk about Hegseth a lot more for the artifacts, so stay tuned. And Robert Pape going to come up a lot.
Great.
You grab at the land with both of your hands, but candles will burn and time will reveal all that you've done and the money you steal. The suffering you're causing gives you no pause for thought. You got your claws in the dead summer's heart. Birds will return, as the birds always do. When they come home to roost, they'll feast on you. Your pies will fade as you grow old. Your pies will fade.
So you have the artifact this week?
I do. I wanted to do something a little bit longer form on Iran because we haven't done that yet. And I was listening to this guy named Robert Pape on American Prestige, who has a article also in Foreign Affairs and just keeps his own Substack called Escalation Trap.
Yep.
But this guy is not he's not a critic of U.S. empire, anything other than strategy. He teaches basically military theory at the University of Chicago.
His book is Bombing to Win.
I
don't think he's not a pacifist.
He's not a pacifist, although I think that probably is ironic because I don't think he thinks he is very cynical about the ability of air power to win wars, at least from a strategic standpoint. So I don't want to get into it because this is whole shtick, but like there's a difference between using the Air Force to support military tactically and using your Air Force as a strategic thing to win wars, just bomb things and then you win.
The fun part about all this is I've also been listening to these podcasts and all the military guys, and it has been the most crystallized way for me to finally distinguish strategy and tactics. Because I understand it conceptually finally, like after years of pretending in meetings where people are using the two words, and I'm like, they don't seem different. But that's because mostly people are misusing them, or people just use strategy endlessly as meaning everything.
Yep.
But if you just do a little bit of time with a military analyst, particularly one who's explaining to you how a tactic can be successul, but it can be not successful strategically.
Failure, yes.
And you will understand the concept.
Yep.
And I thank Robert Pape for that.
Thank you, Robert Pape.
I will be emailing him.
Yeah. Robert Pape, look out for an email from Simone. So I guess I am just continuously struck by how much a fucking disaster this is. Like, it is just so.
This isn't like Iraq war disaster.
No, it's like.
Or Vietnam.
Because Trump is an idiot. And Hegseth's an idiot. But, like, obviously the military is not going to be run by a bunch of fools and do a bunch of things that are just, like, semi-suicidal. Walk into wars it will lose within weeks kind of situation. And it appears that, like, it is the worst case scenario in a number of ways. So one chilling detail of this is that Iran does indeed have enough enriched uranium for several nuclear devices, which they were not making into nuclear devices. And as soon as this all shit happened, all that stuff got dispersed all over the place, maybe outside the country. So there's a real threat that they will have a nuclear device or that their goal now is to get a nuclear device as a deterrent. And I think what explains this war's timing is that Israel realized that if they did not do regime change right now, that they were going to miss their window, and they were going to have to deal with a nuclear armed Iran, which was not going to be an aggressor, but was going to be a deterrent to their like expansionist designs for the rest of their history.
I mean, so as it turns out, the two leaders of the military being idiots means that the military will actually do idiotic things. Like it really does work that way.
Mm-hmm. And speaking to your distinction between tactics and strategy, apparently the military operations have been flawless. They say, let's do this thing. They do the thing. They do it perfectly, with perfect precision. They do it with minimal casualties and minimal mistakes.
I think
and it doesn't lead to any positive outcome because it's a completely pointless exercise.
It hasn't been flawless. It has been, for example, they did not have a way to get people out of the country. That is partially because I think they were surprised by the attacks. Like, so down the line of command, they were surprised by the attacks, but also there could have been better operation planning for if and when, and it just didn't exist. There's also been quite a bit of internal sabotage to at least the boats, at least the Navy on the massive boats, like the Ford. Mm-hmm. And I'm not saying that that's not like to me, that's an indicator that we're not dealing with flawless operation. Mm-hmm. We are dealing with when they need to hit a target. They're going to hit the target, but that doesn't matter. No,
that's the point. Is that what they didn't seem to realize any of the things that were going to happen. And there's this big debate now where Hegseth is saying that's ludicrous. Of course, they understood all this stuff, and a lot of people leaking to the press from inside the White House. They didn't know. Trump hinting that he didn't know, that he was told it'd be over quickly, that he was told that there was an imminent threat when there wasn't. All this stuff. People being like he had a better deal than anyone predicted on the table, and he ripped it up.
Simone predicted it. You remember a few weeks ago? Mm-hmm. I totally predicted that. I think that's the real. I mean, what Pape talks about is the escalation trap, which is that if you go in with a massive precision bomb campaign, you will hit every single target that you want to hit, including a girls' school. Mm-hmm. And
2 or 3 times. I mean, that's the thing is like they hit a girls' school. It helps nobody. It makes them all look bad, and it's a war crime. But they hit that motherfucker 3 times.
Yep. And they got a bunch of leaders knocked out, and they're continuing to knock out leaders. And they can, with great precision, hit these targets. So can Israel. And what does it advance? They now have a more engaged and nationalistic population that is now being bombed. Mm-hmm. And everything's off. There's no negotiating on the table.
Yeah, all the reformers and the doves that were in reigning society are sidelined, or either humiliated or have turned into hogs,
or dead.
And
now they've got the Strait of Hormuz closed, and apparently it's easier to close it than it is to open it.
Yeah, there's nothing they can do about it. There's nothing they can do about this endless bombing. These bombing things. They're bragging about how there's no air force, and they're going to have us pretend that these thousands of drones that they're using have not made fighter jets completely obsolete.
Well,
that's the Air Force. Yeah, they don't have fighter jets because they have thousands of these drones. Why do they need an Air Force? What difference does that make?
They hit one today. They hit an F-35. F-35 makes an emergency landing at U.S. Air Base after being struck, but is believed to be by Iranian fire.
Wow.
I mean, if the CNN is reporting that's believed to be Iranian fire, it is definitely Iranian fire. I mean, the number of times that this has already happened, like a dozen times that it's been reported, is, I don't know, the plane just stopped working. Yeah, I hate it when that happens, when you're just in the middle of flying the fighter jet, and just it's having a bad day, you have to land.
Yeah. So I guess the long and short of it is, like, all of this was predictable. There's a lot of military.
The long and the short of it is it's much worse than you thought.
Yeah, it's much worse than I thought. All of it is predictable if you're a military strategist or analyst.
Yeah, well, apparently there's a whole world of them in academia, in policy land, and in the actual Pentagon that just war game all the time.
Yeah, of course. So, this is serious business.
Imagine this. You're one of thousands of people who war game Iran for a living. No one's called you. You've not gotten a single text. No one's emailed you. You're 3 weeks into the war, and you're like checking your spam. You're like, maybe they reached out. No one reached out. You spent your entire career wargaming, writing policy briefs, teaching students so they can wargame. You know strategy. You know what tactics are. You understand what bombers are and drones and whatever else the fuck they have. And not a single soul called one of you.
We're not doing nerds. We're fuck the nerds. The nerds are always at the problem.
I mean, Hegseth does hate the nerds.
He does.
I don't want to talk to those nerds.
Yeah, they're just. It's like
Get in the way. They get in the way of my war.
And Toby. It's like, oh, not you. Fuck. Oh, God.
I just want to do the war. Okay, guys, we're gonna go in. We'll do it. We'll leave.
Come on, Michael, you're interrupting.
You're kidding me! God! You say radon is silent but deadly, and then you expect me not to make farting noises with my mouth?
There was a guy I was reading about. I was listening to someone talk about this guy who had participated in a war game as a run and won based upon his strategy around the Strait of Hormuz. Like there's people exist. This is all known.
This is Robert Pape's quote about the mess that Pete Hegseth has put us in. It's literally a historical first if this is successful. Quote, in announcing the goal of regime change through air power, President Trump is up against the weight of history. Not just Iran, but the weight of history. For over a century, states, including the United States, European states, Russia, and Israel, have all tried to topple regimes with air power alone. It has never, and I'm choosing my words carefully, it has never worked. Let's do that.
Yeah.
And JD Vance is like, I'm against it, but if you're gonna do it, just be quick about it.
Just be quick about it. Yeah,
just do the war fast,
boom,
guys.
Bam, and then
boom, boom, bam. Air power, assassinate, out. Hegseth probably thinks JD Vance is too much of a nerd to be in the room.
Right.
Oh, well.
Right.
They've got the dumbest nerds and the dumbest meatheads. And they don't like each other.
They really do. They really do. The Rubio's like lukewarm intelligence is like, it's like
get this nerd
the eye under the blind, the one-eyed man. I just can't. He's like, he's the national security advisor on top of being the Secretary of State. He's like, Jesus fucking
Why is
Christ.
this dork talking Spanish at me? I mean, I'm sure you could prompt Claude. Claude, pretend you are
That's what I'm saying.
You have 2 dozen.
Yes, Claude. Just say Claude. Just.
No, you gotta give it a good prompt. Claude, you are the best student that this guy Pape has ever turned out. You have 24 years gaming out strategy, not in the Middle East, in Iran. Just let's say that this guy named Pete wants to do X, Y, Z and thinks that A, B, C will happen. Claude, tell me in not too many words if he's thumbs up right or thumbs down wrong.
It's so, I mean, God, that's all predictable, and all the incentives for Iran are escalation, and they believed that was impossible. They just they hypnotized themselves into thinking that was impossible. So I don't want to talk about the military strategy so much, although I think that stuff is really interesting, and I could see us doing a future episode on some of it.
Yeah, everyone wants to hear Simone talk military strategy.
Yeah, I certainly do. She learned the difference between tactics and strategy yesterday. She's ready to go with her analysis.
I am really into the podcast that have military strategy guys on it now. Not a single woman, it turns out.
No, not a lot of women. Although there's a niche there.
Career change.
Yeah.
Either she's going to turn into a midwife or she's going to become a war gamer.
A war gamer.
Too bad DEI is dead because I really could get a couple jobs.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Alas.
Okay, so what I want to do is I want to talk psychology, because I think the other thing that people are noticing is this like very distinct change in rhetoric about war. This coming from Hegseth primarily, but like the administration in general, which I think is a fascist turn. I don't want to fall into this like thing that people do where like the old way of talking about war is somehow like more moral or more wise or professional or something like this, and I think a lot of people are like pining for like the old like liberal world order way of doing this, which is like Iraq was just as evil as this, if not more. And like even the Obama stuff is like they were only thinking about like how to more practically and expediently getting what they wanted. They were not thinking about the weight of their responsibility and stupid shit like that.
Yeah.
But I do think we have a fascist turn here, and not just like the rhetoric, but also like the thinking about war and what war means and war's place in society. So I'm just gonna pick. There's like a flurry of these types of op-eds about Pete Hegseth. I'm gonna pick one of the more recent ones from the Guardian. This is Emma Brockes. Brockes? Is that Brockes?
I don't know.
Brockes? Brockes? Sorry, Emma. Is anyone as ill-suited for great office as Donald Trump? Yes, Pete Hegseth. That's why POTUS likes him. Has there ever been a more ludicrous political character than Pete Hegseth, the U.S. government's so-called Secretary of War, who makes Ronald Reagan look understated and urbane? Last week, Hegseth launched an attack on the American press for its coverage of Iran, which he called insufficiently, quote, patriotic. A CNN commentator and former Republican congressman came back with,
Call him a crybaby.
quote, punk and, quote, crybaby to describe Hegseth's own demeanor. And I think that's right.
He's a crybaby.
I think it's right, yeah.
But even his mom doesn't like him. Can you imagine being a crybaby that your mom doesn't like?
That's what I think he comes, and he thinks he's coming off as tough. He just comes off as whiny, which I think is really interesting.
Almost every fucking tough guy I know is also fucking whiny.
Yeah, they like, you lose respect for them immediately because they're trying so hard. Why do you think that is? Like, is there no way to actually be tough? Or like,
I think, well, certain performances of being a tough guy are very transparent. But
Right.
there are people I think who can handle more, have more dominant physical prowess, who like are, I don't know, experts in their tough careers, like, I don't know, motorcycle gang members. I don't know. There's a toughness that I think that people can achieve. And then there's a toughness that is like an affectation or a performance, largely done by people who are trained in media. I mean, this guy is a news anchor.
He's also a U.S. Army lieutenant.
He was a lieutenant?
Yeah. So,
Well,
and he did like active tours in Iraq where he was in combat.
Oh, well, he doesn't come off like that.
Isn't that interesting? I think that's
He
fascinating.
comes off as like a real poser. And if you want to read if you want to read people really lambasting him, you just go to apparently the military subreddits, and then all they do is
Talk shit about him.
mercilessly
Oh,
make
really?
fun of
I didn't know
him. So
that.
maybe he's like a bullied kid.
He's a bull. You think that everyone thought he was a dork when he was in the military?
Maybe, or maybe he was bullied before the military, and that's why he went to the military.
I think it's more fundamental, honestly. Like there's this Iranian spokesman who's going on Western media. That guy's tough. That guy is not false bravado, crybaby. That guy's actually tough. And I think one of the reasons.
Why do you think that? Because he's likely to be killed?
I think
Because I would hope that Pete Hegseth is also a target.
Pete Hegseth is also a target, but I think that Pete Hegseth lacks the capacity to believe that there's a chance he has skin in the game.
Here's the thing with Pete Hegseth. You know how Colin Jost does him on SNL?
Mm-hmm.
When Colin Jost does Pete Hegseth,
Yeah.
it's not very different from Pete Hegseth doing Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
Like,
In fact,
they're affecting the same. Colin Jost isn't pretending to be Pete Hegseth. Colin Jost is pretending to be the guy Pete Hegseth is pretending to be.
yes. And Colin Jost comes off with more charisma and confidence.
So Colin
That's
Jost
the-
is very
he kinda does.
charismatic. Like, he's a very charismatic
He
young
is.
man.
He
He's
is.
not a young
He's-
man. He's my age, right?
I don't know. He's probably older than you.
It's nice of you to say.
Yeah. I think that's right. I think he's playing the person. Jost is playing the person that Hegseth wants to be, which is like a brash bully who's kind of dumb, but also is tough. But Hegseth, when Hegseth does it, he comes off as whiny. I think one of the reasons there's this civilizational thing with Islam that is such a cornerstone of like the right, not even MAGA, but like the right wing since Bush, is that they have a sense that in many ways, like the theocratic Islamist movement, it has achieved what they want, and they know that they can't achieve it because they are like a pale reflection of what these people are actually. They envy their dedication to something, their willingness to die for it. I mean, there's all the other things too, like the way that they want to treat women like they imagine all Muslim people treat women. They want a theocracy, all these things. But I think fundamentally they feel like that Western civilization has fallen because they have pampered themselves. They've allowed themselves to be pampered, and they can't imagine, like I said, like putting the skin on the line for anything.
I do think a lot of these guys that are like trad life guys or the ones who are like really into like the second coming, and they are not cool guys.
No.
Like that is not a cool ethos to be like the really like evangelical, super crazy Christian, right? Let's get the norms back.
Yeah.
But I think JD Vance plays that role very well. I mean, this is not a cool guy. This is a guy that's got some like very traditional ideas and wants to be a total square. Hegseth's weird because it's like he's kind of that too. Like he apparently has like is very close to those movements, but like also a raging alcoholic. So like I think he like is like a bad fit. He's like from the island of misfit toys. Where does he belong in this right-wing hellscape?
I think he belongs with all those people, and the fact that he's like an alcoholic and a philanderer and all these other things, I think fits with what they are, because
also he loves like the makeup room and stuff. It's like too much. It's it's like
yes, exactly.
He's a mess. He's a mess of a caricature.
There is a gulf between being a thing and affecting.
It's actually called a street.
And all of these people are not that thing. They look at people.
Some of them are. I'm sure there's some real ones.
Not the ones who are on Instagram. That's the thing, is they're all acting a thing. Like, this is how society moves. Is like you have a thing. This is why it's first a tragedy, then it's farce. You have a thing happen, and then everything in the future refers back to that thing after that thing has gone away. Yeah. So all these people are referring back and consciously, deliberately trying to build something, which those people were not consciously, deliberately trying to build. They were a product of their time and a product of their culture. They didn't have this perspective of looking backwards at it. And I think all these people are like that, including Hegseth, which is why I think it doesn't work.
The whole PSYOP thing with is Netanyahu dead or not, part of that is like literally it's like a brain. I am having a brain bug because everything on Instagram is like, I'm getting PSYOP, where like meaning and truth is completely broken down. And this was predicted by one of these French semiotic, postmodern philosophers that was like, if you have things that signify meaning, they signify the thing. There's a thing and then there's a signifier, but the signifier and the thing get basically like, you can't have that forever. Like the signifier and the thing, trusting that they're connected is a leap of faith.
Oh, yeah.
If they become disconnected by whatever media, art, like they're disconnected. And then suddenly your entire understanding of fact and truth is gone.
Yeah.
And objective reality becomes different. Like it's not a thing.
Yeah.
And to me, that is like, it's literally driving me mad this week. But I think there's a version of that analysis that's about this like performance of the thing on the Instagram by these people. Like the entire movement is a performance of an idea. Not the real idea.
Right.
Because they're not actually doing it.
Yeah.
Anyways, but
and more importantly, they can't do it. As desperate as they want to do it, they can't ever do it. Because they will never ever be able to escape the reality that they are choosing to do with something that they have the option not to do, or the people that they're
also doing it as a career move, and therefore they're not actually doing it as like a traditional gendered man and woman. They're doing like they're picking a career.
Yeah, it's a public spectacle. But I think even outside of the public spectacle, if they turn the cameras off, they still have to go to sleep at night knowing that they are pampered American babies, and they're not their grandfathers and great grandfathers, and they never will be.
I wouldn't romanticize their grandfather.
I'm not romanticizing anything. I'm just saying that they want to be that, but those people weren't trying to be that thing. They just were that thing. Remember first is tragedy and then is farce, because that is the perfect encapsulation of of this moment we're in.
Do you have Zizek coming on to analyze Hegseth? That's the article you need. He is writing. I wonder what he's writing about.
He's kind of got some really right-wing ideas. He's like pro-Ukraine.
I'm not saying that we're pro-Slavo Zizek.
You're just saying you're curious, yeah.
We're just Slavo Zizek curious around here.
He had this.
We're just Zizek curious.
Anyway, all right. So back to this. When he stands at the podium with his Mr. Incredible jaw and his head extended turtle-like, way out in front of his body, all you can think is this. Which is a greater threat to American national security? Iran's nuclear ambitions or Hegseth's failure to meet even the most entry-level requirements for a person in his position?
Well, we now know definitely the latter.
Yeah, definitely the latter.
Yeah.
Although I guess I guess it depends what you mean by American national security. The majority, if that's the same thing as like Israel could do whatever it wants, then the majority of Americans who know who he is, only about 70% of them, according to a recent survey by the Pew Research Center, don't like the guy, and his petulant outbursts last week at the Pentagon haven't helped. Since Donald Trump appointed him in January last year, what has become evident about Hegseth is that, like so many bullies, he backs down sharpish if he meets any significant pushback. Jennifer, you've been about the worst, snapped Hegseth at a Fox News reporter last June, in a phrase we should all have had printed on our t-shirts. Jennifer Griffin elegantly countered, I take issue with that, and Hegseth backed away and pivoted to another point.
Oh, she scared him.
Yeah, I think probably that's overstated a little bit. But
I know, we gotta find the video.
yeah. If it was clear, she'd had more than that one example, which is... More recently, at a Pentagon briefing 2 weeks ago, he turned on a reporter who asked if he had a clear objective for the war with Iran. Hegseth cut his eyes at her like a child starting a fight in a playground and snarled, "Did you not hear my remarks?" This was several days before he made his bellicose remarks about the Iranian regime. Quote, "They are toast, and they know it." All of which suggested the former Fox News host had two basic settings: upbeat, bomb him back to the Stone Age, Dr. Strangelove, and surly sixth grader.
Yeah, I mean, those are the two settings of Donald Trump as well.
Mm-hmm.
I've also seen those two settings of J.D. Vance and of Rubio. I mean, all of them are like little pissants.
Yeah.
They're like all about themselves, and then if they feel at all challenged, they get mean and sneery, and they don't have much to say other than to be mean and like sniveling little shitheads.
Yeah.
I feel like that's on purpose, though. It's not. I don't think those are all like their temperament and personality traits. I mean, I guess it could be that they built an entire administration of that temperament and personality traits, but I think that that's their playbook.
I don't think it's the playbook to come across that way. I think it is the real outcome of what they're trying to affect, which is badass. They want to be a badass, but they're not badasses, so this is how they come off.
You don't think they have like PR consultants and focus group consultants who are like, when you get into this situation, it pulls better if you go that way?
Hegseth and Trump think that they're smarter than all the consultants. And Trump has been right more often than not about what is appealing to at least his base. So it's hard to fault him on that. He has gone against conventional wisdom and been rewarded for it politically a whole lot.
If that's your take, then what his instinct and how to behave and Hegseth's instinct on how to behave is the same as what Rubio and J.D. Vance are being coached to do.
Maybe. I'm not sure. Or Rubio and Vance are chameleons. Like a lot of people have tried to be with Obama and Reagan. They just know how to copycat something that's working without being able to explain why it's working. But I think the thing that explains this to me is Pete got back from Iraq and felt that they lost. And now he's all this talk about no quarter. We're not going to have these stupid rules of engagement. We're going to be maximum lethality, not pathetic
Maximal lethality,
whatever it is. This is that the U.S. military cannot fail. It is too strong. It is made up of too much great, particular white men who are too brave and too powerful and too courageous that it cannot fail. Therefore, it must be failed by something. And what is failing them is internal. Mm-hmm. And it is the people who believe in rules of engagement and the people who believe in restraint and the people who believe in like the responsibility of war conduct and professionalism and all of these things. And it mirrors exactly the narrative that the Nazis had about themselves, that the Germans lost World War I, but it was because of the Jews and the socialists stabbing the country in the back, right? That any day now, the greatness of the German soldier and the German people was going to win the day, but they could not fight a war on two fronts, not Russia and France, but their external enemies and their internal enemies who just desired to destroy them. And I think this is what appeals to a certain type of person about the Trump administration, is I am a fucking badass. I know that I've done nothing for the past 15 years besides sit on my couch and watch Fox News, but I am a fucking badass. How did we lose in Iraq if I'm this much of a fucking badass?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the liberals, it's the idiots like Bush, and it's the pansies and the pussies that kept us from going all out. Like, of course we've got all the bombs to win Iraq. How the fuck did we lose that war? It's because they wouldn't let us drop them.
Yeah. I mean, that attitude makes a lot of sense if you've met men. But also, like, that... Like, I mean, that's sort of like, who can I blame for this? Something has gone wrong. I'm having a bad feeling. So somebody else clearly has caused this. It's very immature, and it's unfortunately coded male. But I also think that it was very
JP has never acted like that.
Certainly not. No one that Simone knows has done that. But it's also all over Rubio's Munich speech. It's just he's doing like the grown-up version of it.
Yes.
He's saying, like, I mean, he says outright, you have to be strong, can't be held back. Because
fears
we've been
about
held back, and that's why we failed.
Fears about all these things.
And so I think it's a pretty, like, I there's a little bit of this. Everyone's like, it's a chaos factor inside the administration. I think that, yes, they have made some very bad decisions that I don't think they were fully informed on. But I do think they're pretty consistent on some things. Some, like, the behavior and the instincts and some of the ideology behind these choices are fairly consistent.
Yeah. And this also explains, I think, why strategy was never factored into this at all. Because strategy is for wimps and pussies.
Well, explain that, though, because if you want to win, you can't just win on, like, moment to moment. You can't just win the minutes. You have to win in the hours.
Yeah.
And even meatheads know that.
No, they don't.
Does Marco Rubio know that, though?
I think Marco Rubio knows that, and I think that is why Marco Rubio has been... I don't know. I'm projecting a little bit here, but I think Marco Rubio has been very careful to set up Israel as the instigator of this, and to distance himself somewhat from the decision to do it. And not to the degree that Vance is calling every reporter in town. This is a guy from JD Vance's office, not JD Vance, and I just wanted to let you know as an insider what his thinking is about this war.
What guy? So just to be clear, Israel has a strategy, and they're enacting their strategy.
Israel has a strategy, and that's another thing. Strategies for Jews.
Oh my God, you can't say that. What if that gets clipped? But. So, like, this is a world in which you have these fake tough guys, Trump and Hegseth, being walked into a war that is an absolute fucking quagmire that anyone can understand as a quagmire with the most basic of information, at the behest of a quote unquote ally that does have a strategy that would walk them into this war, and doesn't that make them like cucks for Israel?
So
I don't know if I'm using that word properly, but I'm trying to get a little bit into the what do we call it? The dirtbag podcasts.
The dirtbag left.
The dirtbag left.
So this is the thing about the Nazis is.
Well, I wasn't talking about them. I was talking about Israel.
The Nazis were not going to win that war.
Really?
There was no version, unless they got the nuclear weapon first.
Have you read The Man in the High Castle?
They were not going to win that. Yeah, they were not going to win that war. No amount of bravado and mythology making and total war spending was going to win a war against France, Britain, Russia, the United States.
They would have won the war if the Soviet Union wasn't in the war.
They would have won against people who, like the United States in this case, France had no interest in fighting and winning that war, right? That's an easy war to win.
Yep.
But anyone who's taking the Nazis as an existential threat was going to fight the war seriously, which the French did not do, and they were going to win that war eventually. This is the same situation as that, like, people like Hegseth have wanted to create a mythology about America, which is that we have all this money and all this technology and all this power. And I think all of that is a substitute for an idea about himself and other quote unquote war fighters. which is that we are the
The
greatest.
the warrior ethos. That's
warrior
that's
ethos.
this
They
thing.
call, we're not soldiers anymore. They're war fighters, and they win wars as long as they are allowed to win wars. And you don't need strategy. Strategy is for people who lose wars because they need to think their way through the war.
You don't need strategy. You just need the most resources, the most bombs, and the most.
You need strength. Strength is something that is beyond.
It's big
thinking.
Big dick energy.
It's big dick. It's not even just. It's like fascism has always required this like curious thing where you have to be simultaneously so strong, so much stronger than your enemy, but also have your enemy be some sort of threat to you. Right? It needs these two things. It needs this national mythology of our strength is so overwhelming that nothing could ever challenge us. You are on the God's chosen people. You're on the right side. And also, here's an enemy that's actually a threat to us. We have to take it seriously. And that's a huge contradiction running through the heart of like the fascist mindset. And the resolution of this with Hegseth is like, we have to do something about Iran. But of course, America is the strongest nation. You know that, I know that. It's so overwhelmingly strong that all of these people will capitulate to us just because we throw our weight around. Trump believed, according to these reports, Trump believed that Iran was going to capitulate before the Strait of Hormuz ever came into play. There was no reason to ever worry about any intelligence about it because they were going to surrender.
Because they're going to keep the Strait of Hormuz like in their back pocket. Like it's immediately in play.
that they would, I mean, in this case, I think it's literally because they were not going to be really willing to die. And of course, all these people are far more willing to die than anyone.
Well, that's what's crazy. I mean, you have people who are, Hegseth believes, I think, that this is God's war, which means he must understand that people are willing to throw themselves into the pits of death for God. Like, he must have at least a romantic notion that people on his side will just cast themselves and their lives aside for God.
Right.
And I think he must believe that's not him, which is fine, but he must at least understand that that's a human reality.
Right.
And he can't assume that there might be other people that have at least that instinct, even if they're worshiping the wrong God.
They may have that instinct, but they are meek. So that doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what strategy they have. It doesn't matter how dedicated they are, because they are weak by definition.
Right.
A priori, we are strong and they are weak.
Are you familiar with his tattoo?
What's his tattoo?
He has a Deus Vult tattoo.
Ugh.
God wills it.
Yeah. Not Nazi.
Yes.
Nazi.
So it's Latin for God wills it. It dates back to the Crusades. However, in the 21st century, it has become associated with Christian nationalists.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually flagged when he was in the military because someone flagged him. It was like, this guy is a threat. And then he left the military. But I think it's probably his worldview.
Yep. 100%.
Which I guess means that all of this we are getting the real Pete. The real Pete is just a horrifying, vapid, like his worldview is fascist, and his performance of it for the masses is cringy, and that's all on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, it's cringy,
on purpose, or he's bad at it. I don't know.
He's cringy for us, but what he does for the audience that likes him is he reaffirms this mythology of strength. He tells people that they are strong, that all of this, that they are poorer than they used to be, that they've lost these wars, that they're in this era of managed decline, is not because they're weak or there's something wrong with the nation as a pure sort of ideological concept.
The nation being represented by white men, white Christian men.
Yeah.
Which is the Trump worldview.
Yeah, and like the history and the culture and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
It's because internal enemies have weakened you, have been stabbing you in the back while you've been trying to be strong. And I'm here to tell you that you're so strong, you don't even need to worry about it. Because our strength will we are death incarnate. We are the Grim Reaper, and nothing can stop us, right? And if your goal in a war is to kill individual people at will, the United States Army could do that. The problem is that you have an adversary whose all the strategic rationale, if that starts to happen, is to say, we're going to expand this war quickly, and we're going to escalate. because we will win a protracted competition because it is a war of survival for us, and it's a war of I don't want to be too inconvenienced for you.
I mean,
And we can sure as fucking inconvenience you.
it's really annoying because this is the lesson of Korea and Vietnam. It is like literally why, like, it's not the same. And it's probably super annoying to military strategists to hear this. And I apologize, Robert Pape, if you're listening to this, but like going in to a country that's an established nation with established people who want to stay on the earth and have their neighbors around and have some infrastructure left and, you know, bombing and burning things, they're going to fight for their life because what other option do they have? And this is why the U.S. has lost like all of the wars of the 21st century, at least.
Yeah.
And you're saying Hegseth sees that and can't do any analysis of the war strategy, but can only say that if the libs hadn't been in charge, if the wokes hadn't been arm twisting Bush, as you know, Bush was often arm twisted by the wokes, we would have won. I mean, I guess you would have won if you dropped a nuke on Iraq.
Would you have? What would you have won?
Well, if you wipe out enough people, right?
So every person in Iraq is dead? And what? So what?
Well, they've surrendered then, haven't they? I mean, I honestly think that's the logic.
They would have destroyed all the oil
this
fields.
This is the Hiroshima logic.
Yeah.
It's not like unprecedented. That is what the U.S. did.
It is.
They also did it when they were at the negotiating table and people were saying, we're at the negotiating table. They did it again. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we shouldn't talk about this like it's that exceptional.
Yeah, does Pape include that when he says this has never worked before, I wonder?
I will ask him in my email. I think he's going to email me back.
And this is why
I feel good about this one.
I feel pretty confident that I feel like that is evidence that this is going to end up with a nuclear device because one is
That's really, I mean, it's something that's a big thing to say.
yeah. I am legitimately worried about it, but I think I think he does all that analysis. He just, unlike you and me, he starts with a unnegotiable premise, which is America is stronger than anyone else ever will be or ever could be, and all of these wars were winnable.
No, he said not only that, America's strong because it's God's will.
Yeah,
Like, not we're just the strongest and we'll stay the strongest. Like, we have to be the strongest.
I actually think it's even more fucked up than that. I think it's God's will because we are so strong. It's even more fucked up than that.
That's interesting. I mean,
Like
right.
we are so strong that even God is on our side. God can't even.
Are you projecting, or is that like a real thing that people think
I think
that you're you're good? You're good because God's on your side, or God's on your side because you're good.
it's not good.
Well, I'm not saying
It's
that.
not good.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm
That's
saying
another thing. I mean, what I'm trying to do
is that a thing amongst religious people that you have God on your side because you've achieved
it's
something?
not amongst religious people. It's amongst fascists.
Okay,
That's what I'm
but
trying.
he's
to,
also
That's what I'm trying to bring out here is that this is a real fascist mind turn. And when they talk about restraint and they talk about excess and what's the word they use?
decadence.
Decadence. Hegseth believes that decadence is all of these limitations.
That's the opposite of decadence.
It is the opposite of decadence. It is the opposite of decadence. Decadence is killing a bunch of schoolgirls and doing all these imperial adventures and blowing all this money and all of these strategic partnerships because you want to throw your dick around. That's decadence. And that's all they've got. But they don't even see it as decadence. They see all the people who have been limiting them before as the decadent ones, which is crazy.
That's That's concerning.
Right. And so they can't possibly, I mean, my point is here, if this war is winnable, it's not winnable by these people. Because they have their heads so far up their ass, they have no idea what they're doing.
It's not winnable, but what's more decadent than just dropping nuclear weapons?
Yeah. Isn't that a delicious dessert? Like, Trump is on the verge of dementia so severe he won't know where he was. May as well taste the sweet feeling of being a god right before he goes out, right?
I mean, that's real sick. Okay, well, I mean, what's your op-ed have to say? Is there anything more there you want to pull forward for us? Because it's a real bummer. The World Health Organization has admitted they're oppressed, that they're preparing for possible nuclear scenarios.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of the analysts on the ground, I think, are trying to make sense of whatever this Hegseth factor is, and everyone's like, this does not make sense. It's very difficult to get out of, very difficult war to exit, and there's pretty good evidence that nuclear material has been distributed away from Iranian sites, which means it could be in the hands of very many people.
Yeah.
So the nuclear incident could be like a smaller detonation of some nuclear radioactive materials that originate from Iran, or it could be originating from the United States. I mean, I don't know what you're dealing with here. I don't even know who's at the table talking to the United States about what they're doing. Like, as far as allies and such go, or diplomatic insiders who can like broker messages. I've watched The Diplomat on Netflix. This is a thing. Like, are they even taking calls?
No, because he's mad at everybody for giving him the finger. Read that. Did you see that Truth Social post about how we didn't need you anyway?
No. Wait, he said that?
Yeah,
Trump did?
We never needed you anyway.
This is that crybaby.
Now we know who our real friends
right,
are.
that's it. Is there?
It's crybaby.
Are these like are these like bullied boys that never made it past, and instead found what, like, God and underage girls and war?
Yeah, it's like Trump has gotten away with like this bluster and chest thumping thing and threats his whole life because he was picking on people who had like a tiny fraction of the money he did. But now he's dealing with like stakes he's not used to, and people aren't so easily pushed around.
Well, that's a real bummer, JP.
Sorry.
What are we gonna do now? How are you gonna wrap that up?
I mean, the bottom line here is like,
I'm gonna insert a Colin Jost like moment here.
Last week you said that the U.S. defense agenda was, quote, maximum lethality, not tepid legality, violent effect, not politically correct. What did you mean by that, and why did it rhyme?
Because I'm White Hamilton? I'm just like my country. I'm drunk, angry, and horny, and they made me throw away my scotch.
The bottom line is that like these people cannot govern. Like it's beyond the politics of like what is a yucky type of governance. The ruling class has long since been unable to govern, unable to solve the problems of like society at this point in history, and they need to be removed from power immediately.
There needs to be a massive anti-war movement. You're absolutely right. They cannot solve these problems. They cannot govern. Their brains are broken. They don't function as humans. We asked our kids tonight about why people get paid different amounts of money, and they had excellent answers and solutions.
Yeah,
they have a lot of good ideas.
Yeah. I love that conversation. That was a really cool parenting moment. And the kids did have really interesting things to say about it. And that's the time to get them to start thinking about these things, because it's before they've made all these like assumptions about the way things have to be.
I know. I'm going to come up with like Simone's 10 dinner conversation starters.
That'd be great.
But yeah, I think that's right. This is a complete failure, not just by the idiots that are Hegseth, but by the ruling class that has installed them and is backing them.
Yeah.
And they're also backing the bullshit Democrats who have done nothing to stop this. So these people...
And also don't have a solution to this problem.
So this is... I mean, Hillary, I think, is going to campaign for Trump's third term. She's so thrilled with the foreign policy. So...
Vampire.
It's not hard for a regular person with a little bit of empathy or a little bit of intelligence to be like, this is a nightmare and we cannot stand for this.
Mm-hmm. It is the people have to get out of the mindset of like, I hope these people decide to de-escalate, and into the mindset of we have to give them no choice.
They will not de-escalate.
They cannot be allowed to choose because they will escalate. We have to do it for them. We have to force their hand, and we have to start seeing ourselves as like asserting our will on the world and not watching it play out in front of us dumbfounded. Because if we continue to do that, it's going to go really scary places really fast.
I agree. And if you want like a personal reason, you are probably dealing with the dumbest, shittiest meatheads and the dumbest, shittiest non-nerd nerds that have ever existed, tooling around the White House, getting their little feelings hurt,
getting mad at each other, having little spats in the hallway.
Trump like hands out shoes to them. This is the whole thing. Look into the shoes.
Yeah.
He gives them,
shoes.
shoes in the wrong size, and they're all such shithead suck-ups that they can't correct the sizes.
And they wear them.
I know.
They wear these claw hoppers around the fucking hallways.
For being like strong men, they're like the weakest men I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that's
hit the streets, people, and ask your kids why
People get paid differently.
Why people get paid different amounts of money.
Your powers will
All right,
fade
done and dusted.
as you grow old. Your powers will fade as you grow old. Your powers will fade as you grow old. You're on the make and you don't do regret. You're always out for what you can get. You think like a snake and you ooze like a snail. Let the trail go cold as you swallow your tail. With your low rent skills and your heart of flint, telling your tales that are unfit to print. You're all weasel words, backed up by the boots, obsessed like the rest, with the promise of loot. Your pies will fade as you grow old. Your pies will fade as you grow old. Your pies will fade as you grow old. Your pies will fade as you grow old.
I love you.
The Empire is dead. Long live the Empire. Good.
What was that?